Thank you for auditing. Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a heavenly professor. Lights coming in here, and you'll see it's another weird episode. I have another guest. I don't know. Why not? Keep it loose. I'm here on the other side with, I don't know if he likes to go by Andrew or Ambrose, but I like both those names. What do you prefer?
Andrew Ambrose Lee is my full name. So yeah.
Okay. So then Andrew Ambrose Lee. And how would people know who you are, Andrew Ambrose?
Yeah. I am the host of a music criticism slash comedy, music analysis slash comedy podcast called I've Been Meaning to Listen to That. The show where we take albums we've been meaning to listen to and use it as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. It's very, so basically if you want to have the opportunity to examine totemic albums through like, if you basically want to like have an album, like an analysis of an album that's a mix between like, pretentious music critic versus like, curious, like, oh, I've never heard this before. Like, this is the place to go. Like we had Guy on to talk, like Pablo. It's one of our best episodes. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's really great. I mean, people ask me all the time to review older albums, and I will from time to time. But in general, I try not to. So if you are interested in people having good, high level, fun, personal, interesting conversations, I really suggest that podcast. But Andrew Ambrose, I'm gonna have fun saying that name as fast as I can as I keep going. Andrew Ambrose. Andrew Ambrose suggested that he might want to appear on my second half of the Brockhampton review. So I reviewed Brockhampton, The Family, a couple days ago, and I didn't review TM because I somehow got the impression that it was a throwaway album that the band didn't care about. I've since been corrected by many Brockhampton stands. Ham stands? Do they have a name? Do you know, Andrew Ambrose, the name of the fans?
Brockhamptons or something like that?
Yeah.
Stanhamptons.
Stanhamptons. Yes. And so I figured, why not do this episode? I mean, one thing I've definitely learned over the last couple of weeks is if you want to get internet clicks, cover internet bands, because that's who's watching these videos. I'm going to eventually do a video on Neil Young, and Neil Young is 10 times as big as Brockhampton, but Neil Young's fans are not waiting for my review. So I really appreciate that about Brockhampton and all of this idea. So did you see my review? Because so Andrew Ambrose you're not quite a Ham stan, but you are a fan of their music and you've been following them for a while, right?
Yeah, I was aware of them from like Saturation, like 2 or something like that. I just saw their videos. I thought they were cool. I couldn't really distinguish them at the time, like because there are too many members. It was like
Yes.
Really like
we'll get to that later in the review.
they're like really, so like it took me like a few years to like kind of know which one was which and like what each individual member offered and stuff like that, and kind of get it a little bit into the lore. I'm not like lurking on the Reddit all the time and stuff like that. Like whenever they come out with a new piece of work, I am, I'm interested in it. I like it and stuff like that. But it's kind of more similar to you of like, I kind of hopped on more as a fan around Ginger Iridescence era, something like that.
Right. So, I mean, the most interesting responses I got was in the video. I asked, what is like the real hip hop world? What is their relationship to Brockhampton? And it seemed that it was, I mean, in general, in my experience, the people who are the real hip hop fans are the most sort of gatekeepy fans in popular music right now. And it seems as though that's maybe not true, because it seems like the general thing is, okay, well, it's not the worst way that suburban white kids, who are online can be introduced to hip hop. So it seems as though they're treated as sort of a benign entryway, which made me think about all of the entryways for white suburban kids into hip hop that were not through, black acts. So Aerosmith, I think, is the first one with Walk This Way with Run DMC. Definitely that's how many people I know first heard of hip hop. House of Pain, of course, that was produced by Cypress Hill. So there you go. Vanilla Ice, Eminem. I can definitely see that for those kinds of entryways for suburban white kids where they don't have to really, like Brockhampton's great because it may be an introduction that's an easier introduction than, going straight to Mobb Deep or whatever Future. But it's still a group that is at least half African American and tackles a lot of interesting topics and is not. It's definitely not white. So that's interesting to have as an entry point that's not white. I don't know. Am I saying anything there that sounds right, or do I sound like I'm going to cancel myself?
I think it's like because one of your previous videos you talked about like that was like a potential thread you could have gone down as like Brockhampton as the sons of Ye, like kind of like one of like, and like right now like Kevin Abstract and all those guys, they're like the most like distilled, because they had Ye and Jay-Z and all these people before them. It's like Brockhampton, I feel like the most distilled, like of all those influences, just like distilled into one entity, basically. It's like really Odd Future influence, Childish Gambino influence, like Andre 3000 influence, kind of just like distilled into like one entity. So like, yeah, it's probably like more accessible that to white suburban kids, like also, but also like the idea that they that you can get something new while getting something old at the same time.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. And I would say that my big question for this album, and I'm going to do the thing where I sound kind of provocative, but I have a non-provocative answer. So we'll see what you think, Andrew Ambrose. What is the point of TM? Why did they release this album? Why do you think?
Well, to kind of react to your previous video, the point that I really latched onto was your point about Return of the King and how that movie's so funny because it's so like interested in the lore and has to like wrap up 100 things that the last third act ends up saying like goodbye like 100 times basically. They're like goodbye and then like, oh, the movie's over. No, it's kind of like. So I think that's the perfect metaphor for Brockhampton's ending because goodbyes are so hard and it's kind of like a divorce where you have to tell your kids over and over and over again that they still love each other, they still love you, but we're going to go our separate ways. Like we're going to, So, and then just like the idea of, much of art is a response to death, whether it be like Bell Hooks or Charlie XCX or Kubrick. Like art is a response to the notion that we're going to die, whether it be to ignore it, to acknowledge it one time and then move on, or just to like stare at the gaping maw of the possibility. And like art is like a way to process death because death is so random, sudden, unpredictable, and final. And like I've had family members who just passed away very suddenly, and it was like very odd because they're just no longer on this earth anymore. So the idea of having a satisfying finale is like just a way to like kind of understand death and take control of your life a little bit, like to make art and to like have a satisfying finale, and it's very hard. So I think the fact that I
think you're right, because really where I ended up with is that this album primarily exists to balance the other album. So I think the other album is, so it's a question of preference. So The Family is by far my favorite thing I've ever heard from Brockhampton. It's something which I would be happy to hear again, but I recognize that it isn't in the spirit of the band. It's not it's not polyvocal, it's univocal. It's just one person and a bunch of producers, but it's just one person's perspective. And it is entirely, the second, halfway through the first verse, you know what that song is about. And then the entire album is about that one thing all the way through. So it's one person expressing one thought all the way through. And then this album is many people expressing, as far as I can tell, nothing. Like even the song that's called Goodbye, I don't think is an actual goodbye. I think this is just, every single song, I listened to the entire thing. I remember the first time thinking to the lyrics, I didn't pick up on any of the lyrics. I mean, maybe a couple songs about like, gay sex, because that jumps out because you don't hear a lot of rap about gay sex. So I'm always, happy to hear that representation and normalization, all that stuff. But beyond that, I was like, what did I listen to? And it sounds like I'm dissing it, but not really. I might be throwing a little bit of shade, but it's more that like, here is what everyone else is doing that isn't Kevin Abstract. So I sort of think of this album, even though Kevin Abstract is on here quite a bit, and I don't mean to be that guy, but he's the best part of this as well. I sort of think of this as being what I call Brockhampton. So that's what, if you take the name Brockhampton and take out K and A, it's Brockhampton. So that's how I think of this album, as Brockhampton's like debut. Like, this is what
that your clickbait title for this?
Yeah. You see why I have so much clickbait, Andrew Ambrose, because I just come up with clickbait just like that off the top of my head. But that's how it seems to me. And then I even went further and imagined, what if they replaced Kevin Abstract with Ka, the underground New York rapper, who wouldn't fit at all. Anyways, I had a whole fun thing here. If you're a fan of both, I think that's pretty funny. So I think that's what this was. This was a great counterbalance to show everything else that the band was. On one hand, this band was Kevin Abstract's vision and brilliance with a great team of producers. On the other hand, it was a bunch of fun kids from all over the world getting together, being fun and talking about fun stuff. And it was like distilling it into two different essences. And while I prefer the family, that's not like I hear this and think it's bad. It's just like, oh, this is the part of Brockhampton that is not the part that I responded to the most. So I think we'll jump into the stamp, the example song. And I told Andrew Ambrose before what I thought was like the stamp, and he seemed a little bit surprised. So just click above, I guess, Libya, to hear actually, no, wait, it's over there now. Click above somewhere in Andrew Ambrose's apartment to hear the song Crucify Me, which I think is absolutely the best of Brockhampton. Of course, Kevin's on here as well, but this, I remember the first time listening to it. So it's like in the middle of the album, and I first heard I lost one of my headphones. My wife very kindly and somewhat stupidly gave me headphones like Andrew Ambrose has that are not connected, and that I'm not made for that. So the first time I listened to this album was only one ear, so I knew I had to listen to it a couple more times. But even halfway through this, I was like, I am amazed at what I'm listening to. Like, really, to hear this song all the way through and to imagine myself 15 years ago or 20 years ago with what my conception of hip hop music is, it really is something pretty spectacular. I mean, starting off with this like falsetto sung by Joba. And then this sort of like jazzy ride cymbal and jazzy pianos, and he's singing in this falsetto, crucify me, brutalize me, like sort of kind of cringy lyrics, which seems like that's sort of Joba's thing. And then to have Kevin come in a really sleepy style, just like very sleepy while talking about drinking. And then I think this is on purpose. I think there is conversation between this and the family. I think his struggles with addiction are supposed to be heard in the way he's rapping this verse. I crashed before I even have a drink. My lowest points were formed standing at the sink. That is like the realest of real lines. I mean, at least for me. I mean, I literally have some of my worst memories of all time standing at the sink. And it's not because I had a bottle in my hand or I had a X-Acto knife over my wrist. It's like there's something about the collecting yourself, doing dishes or getting a sip of water. I don't know what it is, but it was this weird like little slice of life where I'm like, okay, yeah, there's all the gay sex stuff and the band's breaking up and there's the drinking and this. And then at the back half of the verse, Kevin Abstract has this weird, like, I feel like I'm blending in too much, almost like this, there's a real Outcast vibe throughout this whole album that comes back. And just, it's really impressive. And then Matt Champion, I guess is his name, comes in with a kind of a nonsense verse. Dusty wallet, I want your name, so print it on me. Don't have to know who put it on me. I don't know. But then the pop chorus that I didn't like the first time, I ended up really liking the second time, especially when I had it in both ears. And then there's a jam, a piano jazzy jam with the drums to take you out. So even though I'm saying that this side of the album, I think we should think of The Family as side A and TM as side B. Even though this is not my favorite side, this might actually be my favorite song of the entire project. Just like this morning, I had to listen to this song 3 times over just to really capture it, because like that part where Kevin Abstract goes into that back half of his first verse, it was like, wait, when does he exactly do it? Like, how does he slip into that weird kind of catchy, fixing in or fitting in,
Blending in,
yeah, blending in. So did you like this?
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not this isn't my stamp per se, but like
Okay.
I just really love the adventurous nature of it and like how unique it is in the Brockhampton oeuvre, and stuff like that. Like now that they have resources, they could like do something this adventurous and weird and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of like Mac Miller production or like John Bryan production a little bit. And I like it. I like that the ending instrumental is kind of like a jazzy piano version of "Come to Life" by Ye. Like the
Oh
idea of like
yeah,
that
I hear
outro
that.
where like there's like the piano and the synths and the drums and like it's going nuts and stuff like that. This is one I couldn't really decipher what it was about per se, but I like it.
Well,
I love Kevin's part too. Yeah.
I think that's a lot of how I feel about this whole album. I mean, the idea of like blending in. I mean, I have lived in Los Angeles before, so maybe it's the difficulty of blending in. And maybe again, this is sort of a conversation because so much of the family appeared to be about the difficulty of moving to Los Angeles and moving away from Texas, and sort of that feeling. But I'm actually curious to know what your stamp is. But why don't you tell me when we get to it? We'll go through, as I like to say, the rest of the album a little bit quicker. I don't mean to
Well,
have that as a catchphrase. What do you want to say?
Well, before, can you like do a little bit of like some of the thematic stuff before we get
Yeah,
into like the track by track stuff?
good.
Um, yeah, like, so we talked about Return of the King, um, and like the idea of in your review, you talked about lamp shading, like the
Yes.
idea that they're shading as a boy band so that when they rap really good, we're like, whoa, pretty
Yeah.
good, Um, so, the idea that like when they first announced The Family, it was just going to be The Family, and then there are 2 singles that came out. It was Kevin only, and then people were mad and sad and like was really disappointed and like,
Right.
but also like holding out hope that maybe the last song would be like the group all together and stuff like that, or like maybe it'd be kind of like Outcast's last album where like there were like a lot of separate tracks from,
Mhm.
or like the White Album where like they all kind of like splintered off and stuff. Um, and so The Family came out and people were like a little disappointed, but then like 2 seconds later they announced TM, it's here, like the group album you always wanted, like kind of like what's it called? Let It Be After Abbey Road, kind of.
Right.
Um, and then so they did that, and they released a new music video where all the groups together, they're having fun. It's like Saturation, it's like the old Brockhampton and stuff like that. And then they did a final live performance, like at the Fonda, which is funny because people who went to their last final, like there was a final performance in Coachella and stuff like that.
Okay.
And like some fans were mad that like they bought a shirt that says the final Brockhampton concert,
Oh my
but there
God.
was
Yeah.
another one and stuff like
I
that.
I assume that's a young person. You just have to get used to the final tours happening over and over again. No
Yeah.
tour is final until they're in the ground or if they're the Smiths. That's the only way to know
Yeah.
that the tour is final.
And yeah, they released a final like music video. They did like 3 radio shows where they went through all the albums. They seemed to have fun together. They released another music video. They released merch of their previous stuff. They, released a final music video where they're like dancing and being cute and stuff like that. And it's like the idea, it's like the idea of like telling the audience, telling their kids, quote unquote, we love you,
Right.
we love each other, we have to break up though, like this is not good and
Yeah, and
stuff like
it's
that.
funny because maybe lampshading is too severe of a term. It is sort of like what, as a parent, I will sometimes do, where it's like if I'm at a baseball game, and I take my kids to a baseball game, and if you take your kids to a baseball game, all they want is snacks because it's too boring to watch. So, I remember telling, can I get cotton candy? No, you can't get cotton candy, knowing I'm going to give them cotton candy. And then they ask again. I say, well, I'll tell you what, in 3 innings, you'll get cotton candy. And then they're all excited because it's like, oh, I'm getting cotton candy. I have to sit through 4.5 hours of baseball, but at least I'll get the cotton candy. And it's sort of that setting expectations. So that makes sense, because I could imagine if I were a super fan of the group and I love them being together, that you'd feel that getting anything is a super, bonus time, extra fun thing. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. With my remove, I don't feel that, because I just hear these as albums and I'm like, oh, this album's better than that album, but they're both pretty good. Yeah, good. Thank you for making sure that I didn't roll over you. I don't really know how to co-host your normal experience.
And then like the idea of, I actually, like you, I was confused about this record. I was like, what is this even about? What is it? So I went to the I went to the Brockhampton Reddit, r/Brockhampton. I literally asked, like you did, like with Aquatica stuff, like, what could you, like, what do you like about this? Like, what are your theories on this? What are your favorite songs? What like clicks about it? What about it clicks with you and stuff like that? And one person, designer _ad_2668, wrote, "Who's Professor Sky?" But then like another
That's fair. It's a good question.
But then another person, Merparmy, said, TM didn't fully click with me as a project until I read about Matt Champion being the executive producer and putting the project together himself. It feels like Matt, who was never the most vocal member of Brockhampton, going through old demos and an old notebook and filling in the blanks. The beginning of the album feels like standard Brockhampton, but after Man of the Moon, it takes a turn where everything feels washed out, slow, and kind of gray, with the amount of autotune making them sound alien at times. It feels like you can hear the band fading out of existence, with the amount of members per track becoming less and less until Goodbye is just Matt and Joba. TM, for me, feels like a candle slowly burning out, if that makes sense, like Matt looking through an old photo book and seeing everyone get less happy as it goes on. I don't know, I'm admittedly kind of drunk, so that makes no sense, but I see it as a Matt Champion companion piece to the family, his own personal, less direct recount of what happened through unfinished demos. So good job.
Who's that?
Good job, Merp Harvey.
Yeah, Merp Harvey. That's good. We should have a third voice on here.
Yeah.
And to the person who said, "Who's Professor Sky?" I did get a couple people who messaged me screenshots. Apparently, Kevin Abstract has like another Instagram, like a secret Instagram or something, and he did a screenshot of his TV with my video playing. So
wow.
So Kevin Abstract knows who Professor Sky is. So I'm just, yeah, that's cool. It's always like, anyways. I will never, ever get used to artists watching my videos. Like if I knew, like if I were like Fantano and I knew that artists watch every one of my videos, I would be so up in my head. I don't know if I'd be able to get through it. So anyways, yeah, no, that's a really great theory that as a companion piece and the candle going out and seeing it through that lens makes the I talk so much about form and content, but that's very intentional because I think that's what makes great art. It does make it interesting, the idea that maybe there is something intentionally not super strong about this, that there is, if I have a hard time holding on to something, it might be that this is that candle going out. Is it Merp Harvey?
Merp Harmy, like mermaid and then parmesan and then Y. So like Merp Harmy. So
okay, now I need a chicken parm sub. Okay. Anyways,
underwater.
Yeah. Yes, underwater. I need to eat a chicken parmesan sub underwater. That was on my notes we were discussing earlier. You can read chicken parmesan. Awesome. Any more general thoughts before I go back to track by track?
Yeah, and then just like the idea of, so first of all, that speaks to Kevin's leadership, that he's able to foster others to take control, to like take creative control. Like that shows he did a good job as the leader of, this group and stuff like that. Where also like Bareface, he usually sings on the album. He kind of co-produced most of the family. So the idea of like moving from just a performer to like the lead like architect of an album is really cool. I kind of view this as, so to like Merp Harmy's points, I going to like the title of the album, TM, which is if we're gonna think of like the family and TM as like side A, side B, it's kind of like you could read the acronym as TFTM, thanks for the memories, or the family, trademark, you know, like the idea of like the family.
I read it
like,
as trademark. I read it's like a little tiny, like the family trademark, almost like, you know,
we're
Kevin Abstract,
monetizing
Brockhampton.
yeah. But also like we're monetizing our group and our friendship, and like, you know,
Right.
like, hey, if you buy our albums, you're one of us, trademark, you know, kind of that idea.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot on the family review, but I actually want to reiterate how impressive and important Kevin Abstract work was on that, talking about the way that he turns his friends into art, because that in the internet space, there's many content creators who talk about that, who talk about the way that they have to turn their life into art, but they call it content. So it's great because you can take, you know, one of those terrible Instagram families. Actually, one of the most famous Instagram families lives in my hometown, weirdly enough. So I'm never going to be the most famous internet star out of the town where I live. But, you know, like those weird, horrible internet families where they film themselves all the time and they turn their family dynamics into something. There's a cool way where Kevin Abstract is equating their wonderful art and music to that same process, you know, of just turning all human interaction into some form of content, which you can call art. So yeah, I think that works well with your idea of TM as like turning everything into art and content for the fans.
Yeah,
well, that's good. See,
that is good.
I scared Andrew Ambrose a little bit before, and I said, I don't think I'm going to edit this. I think I'm just going to go one shot. And I think it's working out. So fortunately, right before we started filming, he made some kind of tea concoction, which was like poisoning himself. I don't know what it was. It was
so,
like,
okay. Like so I put hot water in my cup thinking I would put like lemon and honey, you know, the typical thing.
right.
And then so I put lemon water in my cup, and then we realized we're out of honey. So we have this weird condensed milk sugar concoction, like it's like in our fridge. It's like the lid is kind of broken and stuff like that. Like so I scooped some of that into the cup, and it tasted like hot macaroni water. Like not like it tasted like you know, when you like strain the pasta and stuff like that. It tasted like a cup
you
of
just
that.
drink that water.
Yeah, and they're like flakes and stuff like that. So I got like just regular tea now. So.
Yeah, I saw him drink at the beginning, and I was like, "Are you okay?" So awesome. Shall we move on to FMG? Speaking of acronyms here.
Just like a few quick things,
Great.
Just like quick notes.
This is the best part of the videos. This is going to be the best part of the video. So keep making me wait to talk about FMG.
I love FM. That would be my stamp to like spoiler alerts and stuff like
okay, good.
But like, so the family trademark, and then canonically it's supposed to be the mountain, which is like the picture of the cover art is just like 7 stick figures in like this liminal space. And my theory is like on side A in the family, in the first song, he says, "But next time in another life, somewhere in the sky, we will all reunite. We'll have a cookout and you can bring your kids by." And then the first line of FMG is, "Was that the cookout with my other man?" So like,
right.
I like to think of this album TM as the cookout in the sky, like where it takes place in this liminal space. Like this was made before the family, but released after the family. So it's like existing in this weird, and it's not really about anything per se. So it's kind of them together, but it's also weird because they're about to break up. It's like, but it's kind of like, you know, if 2 parents, like they bring their kids together, like 2 divorced parents bring their kids together for like a get together. It's like, it's nice that they're all together, but they can only do this for like one day, basically.
Right. For this cookout. Yeah. I've been meaning to listen to that. Everybody who just is sitting there saying, I just Jay Electronica'd myself. I just invited Jay-Z to outdo me on every verse. So thanks for showing up and making my my insights look weak. But no, that's great. I really like that idea, the transfer over. I was thinking of the mountain as like, you know, throwing the ring into into Mount Doom or whatever. But
there's 40 more minutes in the movie.
Like, yes, exactly. I must say goodbye to FamY. Oh, yeah, no, that's great. So then now can we move into FMG now that you've made this you know what? I'm doing an executive decision. If you have other thoughts, you're going to have to find some place to insert them because you just gave me a segue. One thing I'm never going to pass up is a perfect segue, but I do want the other thoughts. But yes, FMG, I mean, that opening line with my other man, I do like how Kevin Abstract can say this, basically the standard kind of misogynist stuff about being a womanizer, but because it's about being with men, it's transgressive and interesting. I like how decidedly Southern sounding this song is. This album feels, the other album didn't sound like a Southern group at all to me. I mean, the family, nothing about it all seemed sort of international and displaced. This feels quite Southern. This morning when I finally, I think I listened to this album 3 times this morning and once yesterday, when I found the other headphone, I really need both headphones in because this album is really cool. It's neatly produced, especially this song because there's doubled voices and I really see there. So I don't really know the difference between all of the rappers. I can tell they're not all exactly the same for most of it, but I still don't know them well enough to know the difference between Dom and Matt. But I do like how Dom has this sort of exasperated sound to his voice, and then I like how there's like crazy sputtering keyboards behind Matt Champion. At some point I'm going to do a dorkiest lyric in hip hop tier list or something like that. Like, I need your help, viewers. Tell me in the comments what are the dorkiest lyrics. It's going to take a long time because the Wu-Tang Clan just has so many dorky lyrics and they're the coolest band on earth, but they have so many. But I don't think anything will ever beat Green Lamborghini Look Like a Bulbasaur.
And his dad.
That is next level because, I mean, you know, I play Pokemon Go every day, so I'm really into Pokemon, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm not. So, so I know what he means. And if I had a green Lamborghini, I would also probably think it looks like Bulbasaur. But just like because like Lamborghini is like the shorthand for like wealth in our country. You know, I don't know if it's Jake Paul or someone made it that green Lamborghini just means wealth. So just, anyways, that is just a wonderfully dorky line, and he owns it. He just sort of lets it be that way. I guess it could have been dorkier if he, you know, no, it's impossible. Because like if you talk about Pokemon, there's like levels. Like you can say Pikachu, and then that's not dorky, and you can say Charmander. Now, like that's the one that everyone else knows. But the second you go past Charmander, it's clear that you think too much about Pokemon to be socially acceptable. But anyways,
Bulbasaur is like my starter guy, by the way. But
yeah, all I care about is Magikarp. That's my. For those of you who play Pokemon Go, I'm not joking. I have a level 51 Hundo Magikarp, and I'm never going to evolve it. It is the perfect Magikarp. It is going to struggle and survive.
To talk about like Matt Champion and that line in particular, and you talked about like Brockhampton being Zoomtang Clan, like Wu-Tang Clan for Zoomers, or like by Zoomers, by millennials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Matt Champion's, I want to talk about, this is my stamp song, the idea that they changed the way Brockhampton is subtly changing the algorithm when it comes to boy bands, when it comes to like rap collectives. So like Kevin, you know, turns the I love my gang, that's why I F my gang, like it's super funny. It's like cognitive dissonance with the like repelling homophobes while also normalizing being gay with humor, aggressive delivery, and 808s and hi-hats soundtracking a perspective unrepresented in hip hop. The idea of just like 808s and like hi-hats usually it's like soundtracking something super misogynistic, something super like, you know, aggro and stuff like that. But it's just like a funny subversion of that. So, and then Matt, you know, with his Pokemon line, and then talking about, you know, Harry Potter, like the invisibility cloak and talking about burning his tongue on tea, not like my disgusting macaroni tea, but like just
Yes.
hibiscus tea, and eating sea salt cookies, like just like
I didn't pick that up.
bragging about eating a plate of cookies. Like he's making being a sweet good boy sound hard. He's making,
Right.
and it's not like Lonely Island parody rap. It's not like, it's still like ridiculous and like you could like point at him, like call him a nerd and stuff like that. But this is the way Kevin, like Matt, all these guys, like Joba are like subtly, because with the foundation that like Ye kind of gave us as like the divorced, disgraced dad of hip hop a little bit.
Right.
He's taking what he like Ye built and like subverting it to like allow for like more queer rappers, more, you know, also suburban white rappers and stuff like that. And like maybe like there'll be an Asian Brockhampton one day and stuff like that. That could be cool. Like
Right.
the idea of like, yeah, that's the cool thing. So yeah, I like that song.
I remember I remember when Wu-Tang Clan came up and I had never seen them, and I actually didn't know that they weren't Asian. So the first time I listened to Wu-Tang Clan, I thought that I was like, wow, there's finally an Asian American rap group. And I was like, I think it was 36 Chambers. I don't remember what song, but I remember being like, I think maybe this is not an Asian supergroup. Something, anyways. I do think that will eventually happen, but it was not with Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah,
awesome. Should we move on to Animal?
Yeah,
cool. So speaking of more sort of Ye stuff, I mean, the last album I definitely thought was most Ye. Just, you know, might as well discuss it here because, you know, I have someone else to talk to. It's funny because of all of Ye's insanity that's going on right now and his terrible actions and behavior and great hurt that he's causing, I'm very confused because the one thing I want to respect is that he wants to change his name, because white Americans still owe Cassius Clay an apology for calling him Cassius Clay and not Muhammad Ali. Like we have a long history of not respecting African Americans when they say they want to change their name because they feel their name does not respect them. But it's very confusing to me because I don't want to respect anything else that Ye is doing or validate anything he's doing right now. So every single time you see me and you see me say Ye or correct myself when I say Kanye, I'm having this little battle in my head of like, should I do him the service of not calling him Ye, because calling him Ye is validating what he's been doing for the last couple months. And I think he's like, anyways, so I'm all up in my head. So
yeah. But they're like, there's some like problematic trans people like too, and like non-binary people and stuff like that. And it's still good to like respect their name.
Exactly.
Like that. Just like a base human level.
Exactly. Like no matter what else you say, that's totally wrong, I don't agree with, I will at least this, you know, okay. So, you know, this is, I think at this point on the album, you know, the second song in, I just realized, okay, I'm just not really going to be prepared for how poppy and kind of R&B it is. But there's lots of little details that I like the little pause before the way Kevin sings the word feel. I just need something to make me feel. Again, it actually does segue quite nicely with the other album, because when you talk about addiction, addiction is often just the result of someone trying to feel something. And then I couldn't tell that there was, I mean, I went on Lyric Genius, which everyone gets mad at me, but I like the site. And it turns out it's a different singer on the second verse, but I couldn't tell because there's so much auto-tune going on here, and I don't have the distinct, I cannot distinguish between them. Did you have the same experience, or you're looking at me like
yeah, absolutely. Like it's kind of, this is the most boy bandy album they've ever made. Like for a while, they've been trying to reject the label or redefine it. Like now they're rappers in the group now and stuff like that. Or with Roadrunner, they were trying specifically to be rappers. Like they were trying to like be the best rap group and stuff like that. Where this is like they're trading up super poppy, occasionally aggravating verses, like, you know, NSYNC or Boys to Men. Like you can imagine them all in like white suits and stuff like that. Like, and then like Ryan Beatty, like, oh wow, wow. You know, just like the cute ones here, you know, like.
Yeah, I think the third verse though, I think it's Jabari, that's nice because he sort of slows things down a bit. And the
Yeah.
first time I listened, I didn't actually hear the difference between them. But then the second time when I knew there was difference, I was like, okay, this actually does make it. So maybe it's not all entirely samey, but
Mm.
Listerine is okay. So I had this is one of those songs where repeat listenings really helped. So by the third time I listened to it, I just loved it. And what I loved about it was not that it's a great rap song. I love that it's a good pop song, and it really is. I like the blown out bass. I like the kind of stomping quality to it. I mean, obviously the trope of "I stole your girl" is quite interesting when it's "I stole your man" talking to a girl. That's kind of funny. But just the kissy kissy ow. I mean, just why not?
It's funny because it's a guy kissing him and also biting his lip, and him going, "Owie, stop! Don't do that!" Like,
yeah, it's funny. Actually, I didn't even, because I heard it as kissy kissy now, but then I read the lyrics and it's kissy kissy ow, and that makes sense. And actually, just because everything with me goes back to either Ye or the Smiths, reminds me of a Smiths lyric, "Under the iron bridge we kissed, and although I ended up with sore lips." Like I only when I was like 30, it was like, oh, he has sore lips because the guy has stubble. Like, I don't get sore lips from kissing oh yeah. So kissy kissy out, which is interesting and really makes that really powerful. Now that I think about it that way, just forcing heterosexual men to consider the fact that kissing men actually hurts a fair amount.
yeah, I like that it's so explicitly queer. I like it's like specific, not going like, oh, maybe,
right.
like,
Yeah,
wink, but like just like, yeah, I kissed a guy, he bit my lip, or like I want to kiss the man on the moon, like very
right.
like not even explicit as in gross, just like this is what it is, kind of. I think it's
Right.
so brave and the fact that he's able to fit it into like pop songs, and the fact that like a lot of the Stan Hamptons are like weird, like some of them are like weird toxic bros and stuff like that. Like,
Right.
and they listen to the song and they love it, and that's
Yeah.
great.
And I think maybe too this album, I talk a lot on the channel about how, because I'm an Xer and not a millennial or a boom or a Zoomer or whatever, like I don't really understand vibes that well. And so this song definitely helps me to like this. I was like, oh, maybe this is more of a vibe album. Maybe that's sort of more the idea, that the fact that I didn't pick up on that many lyrics going through the album the first time is sort of okay, because it sort of has these different vibes. And when I was able to do that, sort of get a more macro look at the whole thing, it wasn't, yeah, I don't know. The other verses were fine, not particularly like memorable, but like fine. I do sort of wonder what Jabari would be like without auto-tune, because I feel like he's always auto-tuned. Is that something I feel like I've heard him rap before without auto-tune, but maybe
Not
this
a
time
lot. Like
yeah.
he's like he was a producer before he like became an official member of the group. So he became a member of Roadrunner, and he was like
Okay.
mostly just like auto tune hooks and like stuff like that. But like I think it's like kind of fun in a Young Thug kind of way, like kind of that unconventional like woo kind of flow
Right.
and stuff like that. Like I think it's like kind of an interesting energy to add into this. So yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely think that they're, so I'm not a Stan Hampton, so I'm not going to do this work, but I'm sure on Reddit someone is doing this work of drawing together these two works and how they go together. And I think your thing about the cookout is perfect. And then ending with the word Southside, and Southside is one of the songs on the other album. And then the next song is called New Shoes. And then that's how he describes my American life, is by having my so-called American life, is how he describes having new shoes, new apartment. This is my American life. So I like that connection here. This is weird because it's like, I guess, sort of like drill bass and kind of stutter step. And then this is the song that felt to me the most to be a posse cut. And every once in a while I talk about posse cuts and how it's hard to have a good one. In general, I think it's hard. I think most posse cuts are bad and everyone gets mad at me. But if you think I'm wrong, I hate to say it, hip hop heads, but The Symphony is a bad song. I love Marley Marl. I love every single person who raps on it, but that song is kind of boring. It goes on too long. like it just is. So like I think that's like the blueprint for posse cuts, and it's not good. So that's why, you know, Scenario is so good, and other songs are so great. But with Wu-Tang Clan or with Brockhampton, there's a weird thing where if everybody participates, it's automatically a posse cut. So this song has that feeling, and the production just really works. I think, you know, having it, I never felt like it was boring, like it went on too long. So even though we have 4 different verses coming in here, I think they're great. You know, Kevin Abstract on this album, and I don't think on the other one, really comes to terms with. So the other album feels like he's dealing with how is he merchandised his friendships, whereas this album has multiple discussions of how is he, you know, merchandised his sexuality, and so it seems like there's a little bit of guilt, right, that he's feeling like, you know, talking about coming out and getting rich, like he's sort of aware that he's benefiting from this, and in the event that he's watching this, hey, never ever worry about that. Gay people have been marginalized and put down for freaking ever and had to stay in the closet. And if you get a little extra shine, or people go, oh, that's a little bit interesting, just take it all. Because the opposite has been so true for so long. Anyways, yeah, and then just a really the poppiness of the chorus, I think, is important because it's a posse cut. Like I like how the Merlin comes across almost like sort of like crunk energy, and then Dom has like a sort of a almost like a bout it verse, you know, kind of like the masterpiece sort of, you know, my mom needs islands, my head grew diamonds, I kept on mining, now I'm providing. It's cheesy, but it's good. And then do they have a DJ? They're scratching at the end, and I was like, where did this come from? So those are my thoughts on what I think to be the only real posse. Like, I think this should have been the final track because it has the most people, but I like the candle going out idea much more.
Yeah, I like that, like Kevin knows when to like step aside as the hype man to the other members. Like the first track, like in the music video, he's like pushing the other members down a water slide. So like kind of like metaphorically pushing them to their own solo careers and stuff like that. So, but he's like, the thing that's like cool about him is like he thinks these guys are awesome. He thinks these guys are great, you know?
Right.
And I like that, like he like Kevin hypes up the verse, and then Matt Champion takes that energy and runs. Then Merlin heightens that energy, and then Dom, like, it's like a cool down with like the last kind of like fun, more simple verse and stuff like that. So yeah,
I like that. I haven't seen any of the videos, so that does sound like fun, and reminds me of Napoleon from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So keep it Southern is the next song, which I was a little bit skeptical when I saw that title, because I'm like, if they're trying to be an international boy band, why are they trying to like have like credibility? But I think what it is just sort of an excuse to just try to sound like Outcasts and have fun with it. Which I say this all the time. Whenever sometimes bands sound like other bands and people go, oh, that sounds just like those other bands, to which I say, go for it. If you think you can like credibly sound like Outkast, you try it. It is ridiculously difficult to imitate certain artists. So even if this is a sort of weird imitation, it's good, it's fun, and then it kind of moves on from that. The song doesn't just stay there. It has a cool kind of blown out ending, has the most cringy lyric, of even cringier than the Bulbasaur line, inside her thighs, that's Aurora Borealis. Wow, man, just like, it's cool to think it and it's cool to write it, but I don't know, you say
and
it,
it's cool to say. Like,
just if I knew that was about me, I would not be like, oh, that's sweet. I'd be like, okay, how do I block on my phone? How do I block someone's existence? Anyways, did you have thoughts on Keep It Southern?
I just like want to shout out Merlin. He's like, I wish he was a little bit more on the album a little bit. It's like he's kind of on 2 songs. This is and it sounds like he's gonna retire from music and just like run like a reptile shop.
Really?
So like I don't know, like that's what it looks like.
That's
but like
Texas.
I like the subtle strings in it, and To your point about like why not imitate these people, like, and also like if you're going to imitate an artist, like, yeah, do an artist as good as Outkast, do an artist as good as Ye and stuff like that, then,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't know, I don't want to like diss a band right now, but like, yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know, like, I don't know Kid Cudi's work enough to think that Man on the Moon is trying to sound like Kid Cudi and be able to speak on that eloquently. I don't, I actually don't read it as being about Kid Cudi, but I mean, it's hard to believe that it wouldn't be, because it's clear that there's a lot of respect there. But just what I like about Man on the Moon is that it's basically like, it's almost like a house song or something. Like it has like a real danceability to it, where it's really not rap. It's just kind of like auto tune everywhere. I really like wait, did I just do the thing where I didn't flip over the page correctly? Wait, what song are we on right now? Oh yeah, I did. Yes.
Man on the Moon. Yeah.
Yes. It starts off like really deep with this, Father, what do you know about me? And kind of this childish like melody. And then like, I think the chorus is about an orgy. I gotta say, I love everybody in this room touching me, touching you. I had to be stuck with anyone. I'm so happy it's you. Like, anyways, that's just the sense I get. I get this song as being a sort of gay house orgy. That's the way that I feel. And then kind of like a dance party pseudo Princey bit at the end, which is just great. Like I really enjoy this song, and sort of in the same way that I feel about some of the other songs. Like it's a fun dance party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like magical and joyful and euphoric and romantic and sexy, like all nostalgic and futuristic all at the same time. I think that's like I think they really like hit like gold with this song. It's very wistful, like, and I like Ryan Beatty doing the chorus, like he's kind of Brockhampton's secret weapon, who's not technically a member. And the only like initial my note was the instrumental outro is a little long, but maybe that's because I'm in my bed writing notes instead of thinking, oh God, I hope Sky thinks I'm smart, right? Instead of at a club, like shaking my little hiney or something like that. Like,
Well, it's funny because I talk a lot about how I listen to music, and it really does matter. So the most recent time that I was listening to this, I had my infant in the baby Bjorn, and I was watching the Belgian Croatian soccer game, where sadly Belgium lost. So I'm watching the soccer game, and I'm walking back and forth, and I'm trying to get my baby to fall asleep, and I'm listening in the headphones, and I have a white noise machine on my computer, and I'm watching a soccer game the whole time. So this time when the extended outro was going, like I was actually like dancing along with the baby and kind of going. So yeah, it is amazing how, and that's the thing where, like, why I love doing reviews on YouTube, and why I love the fact that my audience doesn't mind that this video is an hour at this point. I don't know how long it is, because like if I had to feel that I had to cut all that out, all that kind of context out, like I would really feel like it would be a loss. But being able to say, I listened to this album with one ear and then talk about, because I could imagine the fans being like, oh no, how could you do that? So yeah. Yeah.
And the last thing is like, I like that this song is like, it's like, I didn't read the gay orgy read at all, but like, but the idea, like it could be that, but it also, you could play it at like the roller rink, and it's like, yeah, like we're all having fun together as friends and stuff like that. I think it's really sweet.
I'm an academic, so academia is like weirdly horny. It's like we've gone through all this standard analysis of everything. So basically, a lot of academic analysis now is like, what if everybody in the whole world was gay the whole time? That's interesting. And just so moving on to better things. I'm gonna have some mad academics at me. That's okay, they don't watch this.
Some horny mad academics. Yeah. Like you expose our secrets that we're always horny.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, like academic conferences, like you don't even know. It's like tailhook. It's madness. It's like no, seriously, like everyone's hooking up at academic conferences. Like I never have, but not for lack of opportunity. It's wild. It's because it's like, it's a whole bunch of like middle-aged folks like getting together and like talking and being away from their families. But it's get behind me, Satan, the whole time. Mm-hmm. So better things, on to better things. Why don't you start with this one?
This one's stars Pamela Adlon as a single mom. So I can do Professor Sky jokes too, you know.
Oh wait, is
There's a TV show with Pamela Adlon and stuff like that.
I've seen that show, but I didn't know that it's called Better Things.
It's called Better Things.
Oh my God. Okay, well that's a
Would have
really
landed
good
better
Professor
if-
Sky joke that's lost on Professor Sky. So I apologize for not laughing. Well, what are your thoughts on this? Besides, I watched the entire first season of that show and I didn't even know the title. I just thought the Pamela Adlon show.
I like it as like this is like Man on the Moon is kind of the turning point of the album where things start getting really sad and really like kind of, oh yeah, I guess it is over and stuff like that. And they're like little moments of just like maybe we could stay together, maybe we'll do it for the kids and stuff like that. There's like but you know, Matt's like singing a beautiful chorus about maybe I'll find better things, like just like tired of struggle with you, why you gotta leave me so confused. And then Kevin has a verse where he plays the heel and he talks about prioritizing money and sex and music, his music and stuff like that. And the idea, and then like Joba, like I consider him like the heart of the group in a lot of ways, because especially with like Roadrunner, like with the Saturation trilogy, he was kind of like, well, I'm crazy. What? Kind of like he was kind of that guy at first, but like he kind of musically evolved into being like the tender, soft heart of this group, this like really sensitive, beautiful soul. And so like, well, some cliches every so often, but like and yeah, he's like in the middle of it a little bit. So yeah, I think the song's great.
Yeah, it's funny because everything you said is what I said, although I will add, I think there's maybe some pedal steel in here, which makes it seem Southern in a different way. But just now I'm realizing, oh, this could also be about the breakup of the band, because I only read it as a breakup, you know, with a group, but it totally makes more sense as the breakup of the band in the context of the album. So maybe I'm underselling this album a little bit because I was just in a weird place. Next song is Crucify Me, which I've already discussed quite a bit. And then Duct Tape, which is by far the weirdest song. There is a undercurrent of serial killer chic going on with this album, which I'm going to get to by
the design of my apartment, like serial killer chic. I wanted to, like, my roommate wanted to go mid-century modern, like I decided to go serial killer chic.
Well, it's tough because I have this map behind me, and there's like a alt-right YouTuber, Paul Thomas Watson or something, who has like basically the same map behind him, and I'm like, I'm in some ways more on YouTube than even a lot of super YouTubey people, so they might not notice. So I'm always like, damn, I look like that dude, social warrior. So I'm like, I get you anyways. Yeah. So I would normally be in the other room, but I have to have the microphone and the setup here. So this is like my B setup. But I always feel kind of bad because like the Kafka poster and the Velvet Underground, that's sort of like the iconic Professor Sky thing. So don't think this is about this being less important. It's just, this is my setup here. So Duct Tape is super weird. It's like a funky underwater beat, which I like. I like Jabari's chorus. But just these weirdly gothic lyrics, dead to me, duct tape screams, blood on the backseat, let you free. So I guess this is maybe continuing on this theme of like getting out of a relationship or getting out of the band, and sort of like the image of Kevin Abstract being duct taped in the back of the car, not being let out. But I like the drum beat as it's playing out. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I like it. Like I really, I don't remember which band member wrote it, but like I think it was Kevin wrote like a letter when the family came out where he said, I was 14 years old, I was in a lot of pain, my mother wasn't affirming my queerness and stuff like that, and I put out this post on the Kanye forum to the Ye forum as a life raft, and like all these people came who wanted to escape their pain, who wanted to like, but somehow the pain kind of terraformed over our new lives, basically. It like, we became successful, like, and somehow that pain adapted to the new situation and stuff like that. So like, I feel like this song is a little bit about that, like where Jabari is talking about how his mother moved across the ocean to work, and he was like, that was like really painful in 2001 and stuff like that. And then Matt's talking about a breakup, and then Kevin again is playing the heel, or just like I could do no wrong in little Jimmy's eyes. I'm just a man on the other side. And then Joba is like doing this, like using like a lot of violent imagery of like duct tape and like blood on the car seat and stuff like that to like kind of express this is what happens if you don't like if these young men don't like release their emotional pain in a therapeutic, helpful, constructive way. So I think that's really it's really cool. I did like this. I kind of viewed these last three songs as kind of like mid at first, but like I think it's really interesting, exciting, cool stuff here. So yeah.
Yeah, I it's one of the things that interests me the most with all of this internet music that I've been reviewing, you know, like the Quatica and this, and I think Quatica and this are very similar, because like I really think it's a privilege to not know anything and to take this music seriously and to listen to it without everything you're saying, because what you're saying is great and it does make the music better. Like you saying that helps me to understand it better, helps me to relate to it better. But it's like that thing of like people say at a certain point, like your favorite thing in the world is to go to Disney World, but then your second favorite thing is watching your children go to Disney World for the first time, right? Like that kind of idea. So like I get to be like, oh, so that song that I just kind of liked has these kind of deeper meanings, and it kind of goes into this idea and kind of goes into that idea. So yeah, I like that, and that helps to make it stronger. I still sort of think these last three songs are not as strong as the rest, but maybe that's the form following the content of the candle going out. Always something, I don't know, just the kind of trap, like hi-hats and the kind of singing, rapping. I don't mind the gentle guitar, but I don't have many notes on this song. I liked Dom's verse. I liked in particular talking about giving money to his, well, he uses the N-word, which I won't, so they can call collect. Just the image of being there for somebody as helping them, you know, call collect, which is, it's a weird thing because, and so, you know, obviously you're a lot younger than me.
I've never heard any of those things.
Yes. So there's, I'm just going to go on a little tangent here, and anyone over the age of 30 will appreciate it. It used to be the most advertised thing on TV was collect phone. So calling collect is where you call somebody and they pay as opposed to you paying, because it used to be that long distance, you know, if you called California, it would cost, I don't know, maybe $1 an hour or 50 cents an hour. It's like really expensive to call long distance, and calling France or calling Paraguay was just out of the question. It'd be like $3 an hour. It'd be crazy. So there are all these companies that sold collect phone calls for like less money. And so everybody did commercials. Even George Carlin, the most unimpeachable, I will not sell out, did a 1-800-collect. KRS-One, Mr. Hip Hop, Mr. I will never sell out, sold out to collect calls. Who Shot Mr. Burns by The Simpsons was fully bankrolled by Sprint for 1-800-collect, I think it was. So like people my age had this weird memory because cell phones completely erase collect calls for everybody. Nobody thinks about collect calls unless you have somebody in the penal system, unless you have someone who is arrested, who is in jail. The only way you can receive phone calls is by collect phone calls. So it used to be that collect phone calls were known by everybody. Now it is only people who get called from jail. Statistically in America, that is unjustly most likely to be someone in a African-American family due to the injustices of the criminal justice system. So like just hearing this, they could call collect. I was like, wow, I wonder how many people even understand that, you know, in this age demographic. And if they do understand it, then it really hits. So anyways, there's my thought. I said I had nothing to say about this verse. Oh well.
I like that. That's the benefit of having so many members, so many perspectives on one song, where you have that in there, like that sadness of like, you know, collect calls and stuff like that.
I have to grab my power cord. I didn't expect this to go so well. Why don't you talk about something else while I'm gone? And I won't know because I'm not even going to edit this. Go.
Okay. What? So yeah, I don't know. Like there's a story. I feel like Brockhampton's good because so here are my thoughts on, you know, geopolitical conflicts and stuff like that. I think Russia is really interesting and a lot. Okay, so sorry.
Did you tell them to smash the like bucket? I haven't done that
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. Smash the like bucket, subscribe.
Subscribe and go to your Apple podcast or whatever Spotify podcast and subscribe to I've been meaning to listen to that. I have the MTT. Okay, so you were just saying that this is the benefit of having multiple voices on here.
Yeah, like this is the benefit of having multiple voices, like the idea of you could have that Dom verse, and then it could also be about the breakup, about the group as well. The Kevin chorus says reach out some more, but also it could be interpreted as we shout some more. So the push pull of like the situation of like, maybe we shouldn't break out. Maybe we should reach out to each other. And then like, but this is the situation where like we shout some more at each other. And then again, like my take is like the soft, like Joba is the heart of this album. The idea of like, I don't want to like throw hands. That was never my plan. He was the one who didn't want the group to break up and stuff like that initially.
Right.
So the idea just like this, and he was the one who went through that trauma of having his dad pass away by suicide and stuff like that. Like,
right.
So like the group was there for him to with that a little bit. And so yeah, it's just kind of that wistful eternal sunshine of the spotless mind, the candles fading out, the memory palaces crumbling and stuff like that. So yeah.
I definitely, you saying that about Joba makes sense, because that is, you know, my strongest memory I have with Brockhampton is crying listening to, it was Roadrunner, right? That was the one that was the reaction to the death of the father. And I didn't know that he was a wild guy before. I just knew what he was rapping. So it does make sense to have, you know, sort of, I'm trying to think, there's sort of like, you know, like not little Timmy, you know, like, you know, at the end of A Christmas Carol, there's the guy in the crutch, and it sort of seems like Merry Christmas to one and all.
Played by the frog in the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Robin the frog. Yeah.
Thank you. You see, I thought I was out on a limb, but Andrew Ambrose is right there to make sure I don't fall. So yeah, that softness does come in as sort of. Yeah, I'm not ready for it to be over, which leads into Goodbye, the final, this time it's really over song, kind of nice keyboards back and forth. Just what's interesting, you know, so we talk about notes. I really did actually write Joba, the gentlest of the gentle. And we hadn't talked before we started recording, so that's fun. Just sort of talking about lost us, lost love. At times it's almost like some music, because I'm a professor and I have to listen to the same goddamn songs over and over again at graduation. This sounds like it has a kind of summer, feels like a graduation song to me. You know, it's not quite the time of your life, but it's in that kind of realm. And then this ought to be the best time of our life, that sense of sort of regret. Before I get into my serial killer thing, what are your thoughts on this?
Because I like your point about what's it called? What was the thing you just said about
graduation?
Yeah, graduation. Yeah, that's right. Graduation. The idea of, because now all these band members kind of didn't go to college, or like Merlin talked about dropping out of college. This group was their college. It was a creative college. Right. And now they're all graduating, and now they're all kind of like, maybe we'll see each other. Like maybe we'll see like a selfie of Joba and like Kevin going to like eating crumpets and like fans going, it's them, and stuff like that. But like they're not going to be in the same space again, really, in the same way. So the idea,
which is funny, because it's if you're a fan of Black Country New Road, with Isaac having left the group, it's the same thing. Like they all hang out together, they all like each other. There's pictures of them. I mean, Isaac popped in at the very end of my interview. He didn't say a single word. I would have loved if he just said one word, but it doesn't matter. You know, he just kind of like popped in, you know, at the edge of the Zoom call. And yeah, it really does matter that they still like each other and has that positive feeling.
They could, like, that's the beauty of like creative endings, is like they could have just like left it at, you know, we're not going on tour, we hate each other and stuff like that. But they wanted to leave some sort of legacy, some sort of reassurance to the audience that things are going to be okay and stuff like. And this song is kind of that. Like Joba's verse is could be about, I don't know, but like could be about how he's thinking about his dad. He's thinking about, and he's like kind of self-destructing a little bit. He's talking
Right.
about potentially or metaphorically drunk driving, sneaking sips, responsible degradation. Like he has a tweet where he says, I felt chewed up and spit out for so many years. I hated myself for so many years. I wanted to die and tried, knowing damn well I didn't have the balls to end it. I'm so grateful for all that experience. So the idea of like, if I can't like end my own life myself, I'm just gonna ruin my life kind of slowly and stuff
Right.
like that. And then Matt coming in saying like he's happy to see Joba. He's taking Joba under his arm and saying, let's go to this cookout in the sky. Let's have the best time of our lives.
Right.
Maybe like the idea of just like, I think this and ending with Matt, if Matt's the architect of this album, ending with Matt reaching out to Joba in this way, I think is really sweet. Even though it's like
Yeah.
a song, like it's
And it's weird that for a couple of yay heads that we didn't mention that FMG is probably a reference to FML by Ye, you know, F My Life. And
Mhm.
this is sort of an F My Life verse where he's talking about drinking and self-destruction and all that. And in a way, like starting off with FMG, you know, it seems that it might be sort of continuing on from the family of Kevin being like, I think I'm going to go ahead and F my group up, you know, that just going to end this thing in kind of this way. And then you're right, the sweetness between Matt and Joba, which I didn't pick up on until you said, does actually make sense. Now I'm going to just get to my little serial killer thing here, because at some point, thank you, by the way, Brockhampton, because I'm going to do a video on songs that have been ruined by movies, because there's a whole series of
Mm.
songs that have been, you know, Stuck in the Middle with You is a great example. Tarantino just ruins all sorts of songs. So does Scorsese. They're just so good at taking songs and then just making them associated with the movie. So the song samples Goodbye Horses by Q Lazarus, which is one of the most iconic songs in cinema history in Jonathan Demme's Silence of the Lambs, the famous scene where the character is dancing and puts his penis between his legs. Like that scene is a truly shocking, amazing, and problematic now that we look at it. Problematic scene, although I could go on. It's not as cut and dry as one would think about how transphobic is Silence of the Lambs. I think if you actually watch it, it's
Check
not
out
as
the Blank Check episode on Silence of the Lambs. They do a really good job
great.
covering all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, great. I will. So just, it was very weird to me to close out on a song that was so distracting to me to hear Goodbye Horses, because I was immediately in Buffalo Bill's basement. Like I could not be anywhere else. I was not having this summation event. I was not thinking about the second that I hear that, it might as well have been Highway to the Danger Zone. You know, it's like I immediately picture the movie. So it doesn't really matter. I might be alone. And let's face it, that song is just so great. I mean, whatever it takes to get people to listen to that song, which I did. I re-listened to that song. It's like, damn, that has some good music. So that's my weird serial killer third theory. But whew, wow.
Awesome.
Well, this I think we pulled it off, unless you just screamed a bunch of like swears and racial epithets while I was getting the charger. I don't think I need to edit this. Please tell me in the comments what Andrew Ambrose said, because again, I'm not. So the funny thing is, I visit my dad once a day. He lives down the street, and about 1 in every 5 times I do, he's watching my videos like really, really loud. So like I walk into a house with my own voice super, super loud, and I'm like, Pa, this is why I don't edit. I don't want to hear myself talking. So can we please pause it? So yeah. Great. Any closing thoughts on this before we send everyone off to go listen to the most recent episode of I've Been Meaning to Listen to That?
Brockhampton, good, 8 out of 10. I'm the bad boy of Professor Sky's class or whatever. So no, I'm kidding.
No,
Yeah,
great. I don't care.
Listen to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That. It's a podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to, use as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. Listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get shows. I'm very proud of it. Check out our Professor Sky episode on Life of Pablo. Let's try it's like at 850 listens, so we can try to get it to like 1,000 or so by the end of this year. That'd be cool.
here's some things you get to see. First of all, I swear a ton. So people
Yeah.
are amazed that I swear, but I'm terrified of being demonetized. And then that turned into people sort of projecting a kind of Mr. Rogers vibe onto me, like a, kindly older person, but like I swear a fair amount in my daily life. So you get to see that, and you finally get to hear me talk about older stuff. And I forget the name of the person I did the co-host. I remember where he lives.
Stanley,
I remember what his job is, but I forget his name. What's his name again?
Stanley Philippe. He's awesome.
Yeah, Stanley. So he's just awesome. Like it's awesome, like playing off of it, and just, yeah, it's great. If you like Professor Sky content, it is some of the best Professor Sky content on the internet, and it's on his podcast.
Wow.
So go find
Yeah.
Yeah.
So check that out. Like, check out our Beatles episode, Sergeant Pepper. If you want a starting point, either do this Professor Sky episode, the Sergeant Pepper episode, or the Born to Run episode with Kevin Porter. He's one of my favorite guys. So yeah.
Great. And I'll be on there again someday. So who knows? You can put in the comments what album that I've ever mentioned would you want me to help explain to Andrew Ambrose. So
Yeah.
All right, great. Do you want to do a simultaneous there's the camera?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yeah. There's the camera.
Yeah.